Conclusion: row your boat or fly your boat. In 2013, what Larry Ellison wanted, beyond all reason, was a win. So the founder of the software giant Oracle and one of the richest men in the world spent more than $10 million building the fastest boat ever to compete in the America's Cup. The Oracle catamaran was equipped with futuristic hydrofoils that lifted the entire boat out of the water, enabling speeds of up to 55 knots. It defied all prior limits of wind-powered watercraft. But none of that technology helped the Oracle team beat the New Zealand boat in the first 6 races of the finals, despite assembling a collection of software engineers to map and plan every detail. Ellison's team was only 1 heat away from getting trounced by the upstart Kiwis. The races just weren't playing out the way they had in their complex computer models. In fact, all of that expensive technology obscured what the skipper, Jimmy Spithell, knew in his bones: the New Zealand boat was killing them by sailing a radically different course. One of the hardest things to do efficiently in sailing is head into the direction the wind is coming from. It's easy to get blown downwind. Anyone with a canoe and a large trash bag can pull that off. But heading upwind requires precisely balancing the force in the sails against the resistance provided by the daggerboards, rather than the standard high and slow zigzag of the Oracle team. Where they sailed about 45 degrees into the wind, the Kiwis had broken with convention and were sailing low and fast, 50 or even 60 degrees off the direction of the wind. By doing that, their boat was able to pop up on its hydrofoils and rip along nearly 30% faster than their competition. Sure, they had to cover a little more ground, but they were doing it at warp speed, down 6 races. And with nothing left to lose, Spithell defied Ellison and fired his tactician. For the remainder of the finals, he sacrificed precious upwind headway to capitalize on the efficiencies that the hydrofoils afforded. Once he threw out the old conventions and adapted to the true potential of his boat, he skippered Oracle to 8 straight wins and the greatest comeback in the oldest international sporting event in history. A similar choice faces us today. Just as adding hydrofoils to the Cup boats changed what was possible on the water, unprecedented access to ecstasy has changed what is possible in our lives. Experiencing the selflessness, timelessness, effortlessness, and richness of non-ordinary states of consciousness can accelerate learning, facilitate healing, and provide measurable impact in our lives and work. But we have to revise our tactics and append convention to make the most of those advantages. Just as old sailing wisdom favored high and slow, meaning that you pointed your boat as close to the eventual upwind destination as possible, we are steeped in a high and slow culture of relentless goal setting and linear forward progress. It's why, in the United States, more than half of paid vacation days go unclaimed, and we perversely brag about clocking 6080-hour work weeks. We valorize suffering and sacrifice even when the victories they provide are hollow. Surrendering any of that hard-fought ground to pursue non-ordinary states can seem, at first glance, irresponsible or, at a minimum, deeply counterintuitive. Spithell learned that the performance gains of hydrofoiling were so pronounced that if he didn't change how he navigated, he'd lose to those who did. The same is true for ecstasy. Research shows that these experiences lift us above normal awareness and propel us further faster. Much of our conventional schooling, personal development, and professional training still miscalculate this fact. It's hard to fathom how much faster we can go, how much more ground we can cover, if we can only appreciate what high performance now looks like. An afterthought. While most schoolchildren can recall the broad outlines of the story of Prometheus stealing fire and getting chained to a rock, few of us know why he did it, what came next, or what it might tell us about the road ahead. Back in mythic preface story, Zeus hadn't always been king. He'd had to battle a race of giants, the Titans, to claim his throne on Olympus. And when he won, he banished all of them, except for 2 young brothers, Prometheus and Epimetheus, whom he charged with making all the living creatures on the earth. Epimetheus, whose name means afterthought, started making animals out of river clay and bestowing on them all the gifts that Zeus had allotted: strength, speed, fangs, and fur. But he worked so hastily that by the time Prometheus had finished fashioning humans into the likeness of gods, there were no more advantages to bestow. It was then that Prometheus, whose name means forethought, took pity on man, shivering and defenseless in the dark, and asked Zeus if he could give them fire to compensate. Zeus said no. Prometheus stole fire anyway and got punished. That's the part we all remember. But Zeus wasn't finished with the humans or the brothers. He wanted to make sure that no one challenged his power ever again. So he made a woman, Pandora, whose name means all-giving, and gave her a box filled with the tragedies of life to unleash on the world. Prometheus, true to his name, was cautious about accepting a gift from Zeus, but the more impulsive Epimetheus fell hard for the beautiful girl and they married. Eventually, As Zeus knew she would, Pandora gave in to her curiosity and opened the box. When she did, all the scourges of existence, war, pestilence, famine, greed, flew out to torment mankind. At the last minute, though, Pandora managed to snap the lid shut, leaving one thing remaining: hope. That is why, explained the Greek storyteller 3 Aesop, hope alone is still found among the people, promising that she will bestow on each of us the good things that have gone away. Only now, our hope isn't as blind as it used to be. We don't have to keep making sacrifices to powers beyond our understanding or keep waiting for rescue from our plight. Today, a string of modern-day Prometheans have taken up the torch, rather than relying on a singular emissary. We can draw information and inspiration from a global network of pioneers and innovators, and this ups our odds considerably. From 3D chem printers allowing us to explore our minds, to full-spectrum sexuality letting us lose ourselves in each other, to transformative technologies nudging us into clearer self-awareness. 2 giant gatherings providing a taste of communities, the 4 forces have unlocked the gates of Olympus. And this may offer the greatest hope of all. We no longer have to rely on someone stealing fire for us. Finally, we can kindle that flame ourselves.